Welcome to Fun and Fundraising, everybody, the podcast where we talk with people behind top nonprofit galas and signature fundraising events to showcase how they positively transform their communities. I'm your host, Rob Giardinelli, and today I am really excited to have two special guests on. So we have Mary Beth Mosley, who is the development director of an organization called Camp for All, and we have Paul Palmer, who is a co-chair for the organization's signature fundraising event. This year it is titled Krewe de Kamp for All. And it's a wonderful organization that really allows people to experience wonderful things regardless of their background in life or their disabilities or any of their other capabilities. So it's really an organization that really pulls at the heartstrings. So I'm really excited to talk with these two amazing people today. So with that, Paul, Mary Beth, welcome. And I am so excited to have you both as guests today.
Thank you. Yeah.
Awesome. So Mary Beth, would you talk a little bit about what the mission of Camp for All is?
Sure. The mission of Camp for All is to transform the world for children and adults with challenging illnesses, disabilities, or special needs. And we do that by providing a barrier-free camp experience at our camp located in Burton, Texas. We partner with more than 65 different nonprofits from all over Houston, all over Texas, and all over the country to give their campers and the people they serve an amazing, unforgettable camp experience in a place that is beautiful and surrounded by nature. It's a wonderful organization, and it's a really magical thing that happens for our campers. We find that when campers with disabilities or chronic illnesses are surrounded in a place that was built just for them, that surrounded by other people who have the same challenge, they come away with a sense of hope. They find themselves full of joy. And because they know other people share their same challenge, they realize they're not alone.
That beautiful, succinct answer. And it really, what I love about that is one, there's just something that feeds the soul when you are connected with nature and with and with the earth. And there is a second thing, and if it's okay, I'd love to, ask a follow-up question, because I just think I'm glad you brought it up because it's not brought up enough. And that is how you partner with literally dozens of other nonprofit organizations to make make what you all do a success. So talk a little bit about why it is so important to collaborate with other nonprofits so that you can create these amazing experiences for your guests and for people experiencing your services. And Mary Beth, yeah, go ahead.
Partnership is at the very heart. Yeah, sorry. Partnership is at the very heart of Camp for All, truly. When we were founded, it started because two doctors who served campers, children with brain neurological challenges and children with cancer, and they wanted to take them to camp. But when they got to camps, they found that the camps had stairs everywhere. There wasn't enough of a robust health center, or the weeks that they were given were at the end of the summer or after the summer had ended. And so those kids had to go to school too. They couldn't get to go to camp. And they said, what we really need is a camp for all. And so those two camps still come to Camp for All. One is Camp Spike and Wave with the Epilepsy Foundation. The other is Periwinkle with the Periwinkle Foundation. And we love the fact that our business model is set up so that we call these nonprofits our partners because it is so integral to what we are and who we are. Our partners bring the campers. These are the people who come from the communities they serve. They bring any doctors or medical staff that are needed at camp so that mom and dad or brother and sister or caretaker know that their camper is being well cared for. It also means that Camp for All isn't trying to pivot week by week between serving campers with cancer, campers with renal conditions, campers who have intellectual disabilities. We don't have to be experts each week. Those experts come with the partner. And they typically provide about half the cost for each camper who attends. They also provide the in-cabin counselors. Camp for All provides the barrier-free campground. We provide all the food services, including any special diets. We have the trained and professional staff who run all the activities and know how to provide those activities in a way that's adaptive for all those different needs. And because of events like our gala, we cover the other half of the camper's cost. And that means most campers come for free. And it means that our partners can serve more campers because they're not having to cover the cost for the full cost for every single camper. Instead, they cover their portion, and that means they can bring more people. It's really wonderful. And those partners, I mean, truly range from a couple of moms who got together and had children with cerebral palsy and said, hey, they deserve to go to camp too, to Texas Children's Hospital. So everything in between, Muscular Dystrophy Association. We're very fortunate in these partners, and it makes such a difference for the campers' experience too.
That is an amazing answer. And I love how you explained what the partnerships do is it allows you all to do what you do best. And I think a lot of nonprofits struggle with, I've got to provide everything soup to nuts. And the fact of the matter is that there's things you do very well, but there are also other things that people who they specialize in it, they're going to be able to provide that level of detail that you're not able to, so that you can do what you do best. And I just thought that was an amazing, really excellent way to describe how you all work with nonprofits. And I want to understand, how each of you, because I always find it interesting to hear the stories of people of how they get to organizations. So Paul, I'd love to address this question for you. How did you initially get involved with this organization? You got a huge smile on your face, so I know that is probably a really inspiring answer.
No, it's kind of a funny story. We were in Round Top, which is close to Burton. We have some property in the country. My wife and I were out, and we were talking of, I think, just having a glass of wine. And a woman overheard us talking. She was with her dad, Dina Wren, and she said, "Hey, y'all live around here?" And we said, "No, we have a place out here." And she said, "Have you ever heard of Camp Raw?" And we said, "No, we've never heard of it." And so she began to tell us about it, and she invited us to a gala back. It was about probably 10 years ago. And we were very, very interested in the organization, and we've gone out and we've done some tours out there and seen live situations and volunteered. And so once we got a hold of that, then I mean they're very good at when they find people are interested, they find a place for them to help out and to volunteer.
That's amazing. And I love that. What I love about that answer is you were, and you're all a regional organization. We'll talk a little bit about kind of how that kind of works, because Houston's a very big metropolitan area that it makes it regional. I love that you lived in one city, you were at a place, where you have a second place in another part of Texas, and someone overheard a conversation. It just goes to show the importance of connectivity, and this person having the foresight of being, what, I think Paul and his wife will have, they'll connect with this organization. And it's amazing how those things blow out over the course of a decade. I just think that's so, I think that's so cool. And Mary Beth, from an organizational perspective, I'd love to hear your path about how you became a development director of this organization and kind of what your background was and what led you to, invest, your career in this organization.
Well, my background and training and what brought me to Houston in the first place is actually as a journalist. I worked in TV news for about 15 years, including 11 at KPRC Channel 2 here in Houston. And when I left Channel 2, I was looking for something that would still allow me to connect with people and to tell great stories. And I thought maybe in nonprofits, was the place for that. And people kept saying, "Oh, are you going to do PR? Are you going to do marketing?" And that side, which is great, it just wasn't my cup of tea necessarily. And somebody, her mother was a good friend of mine, was on the board at Theater Under the Stars, and she said they're looking for someone in the corporate relations position. And I saw the job description. I thought, I don't know how to do any of that, but I went for an interview. Had a great conversation. I thought I need to practice interviewing anyway, because all I had ever done was TV news. And so had a great time at the interview, thought I could do that. And fortunately had a really wonderful mentor at Tuts. Her name was Marcia Hovius, still Marcia Hovius. And she really coached me on how to do good donor stewardship, how to take care of the people who give to your organization and why that's so important to be transparent and to clear with them. And so I worked there for many years. I worked at the Houston Symphony for several years. And then at the same time, I had been looking for maybe a new leadership role. A friend came to me and said, hey, Camp for All is looking for a development director. And I loved camp. I was a camp kid as a youngster. I went to 4-H camp, church camp, I was a counselor. And I remember at Channel 2 actually reporting on when, I wasn't the reporter, I was behind the scenes, but when Camp for All opened in 1998. We used to carry the muscular dystrophy telethon. And so we would send a reporter out to camp to cover it. And I clearly remember those stories. And I thought, what an amazing organization. In addition to me being a camp kid, my mother has epilepsy. My father is an amputee. And both of them, if they had had those challenges when they were kids and wanted to go somewhere, they would have wouldn't have had a place to go. But Camp for All today would allow them to go to camp. And so the mission speaks to me every day. Every time I get to go to camp, it is impactful to me. I know you've seen that too, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
It's just to see the campers loving it. And what it means is when you get in the dumps about something, or you get in the, day-to-day dregs of work, which we all do, even no matter the mission that we're working for, it's such a great reminder of why we're doing this and why it's important.
Absolutely. And, Paul, I'd love for you to kind of chime in on kind of the tail end of what Mary Beth was talking about there. And, chairing an event it's a major commitment. And I don't think people realize that. It's not you roll out of bed, throw on a tux and show up. That's not how it works. So what compelled you, having, attended your first event 10 years ago, what compelled you to say, yes, I'm going to chair and I'm going to put my time, my investment and, of time and energy into this particular event?
Well, I mean, we have 2 older boys, so we're empty nesters, my wife and I, and so I'm always looking for things to take up my time. I have not a lot of time, but I mean, I've got enough time to volunteer and give back. And, part of what I've tried to do at my stage of life is not just to write a check, but to try to get involved in organizations and, do time and talents. And I think one of my talents is, leadership. That's kind of what I enjoy doing. I like stepping in and running things and, I'm not telling people what to do, but being with them and facilitating. And so, I was a little passive when I first got involved, but other than going to galas. My wife got involved in the gala committee, and she said, "Hey, you need to get involved too." And I said, "Let's do it." And so I started to come into the meetings and helped fundraise and get auction items and that a few years ago. And then they invited me to get on the board. And so, once you get on the board, then you have to volunteer, which is a good thing. And so Mary Beth, I think you asked me last year if I wanted to get on the to host the gala. And I was like, no, I don't think we're quite ready. And so this year we said, hey, let's do it. And so we thought about it, my wife Heather and I, and we said, let's do it. And we've had we already had a committee. And so we had brought some additional people into the committee. And being from Louisiana, we brought some other friends. We had dinner with them and said, hey, didn't tell them up front, but we invited them to say, why don't you all help co-host with us or co-chair? And they were excited and they really jumped in. And so we have a Louisiana connection there, which kind of leads into our theme of Krewe de Kamp for All. So we're kind of Cajuns from the South, and we love Mardi Gras parties. And they had a Mardi Gras party a few years ago, and we thought, yeah, but they didn't have Louisiana people, sharing that. And so we wanted to add a little bit more flavor to that. And so it's been a lot of fun. We've had a lot of people chip in, and so it's a good way to invite other people who aren't exposed to Camp for All. So you kind of get the word out. You tell them what you're doing with your time, and they become interested, and you invite them to these events. And it just kind of sets the fire to get them involved to see the good things that Camp for All is doing, and so that they can be a part of it.
And Heather and Paul and their co-chairs, Ricky and Stacy Duke, have that perfect combination of chairs that you want. They are fun, but they are also have focus. And there's a business approach. And we have agendas for our meetings. We always have, but that's the perfect combination, I think, for gala chairs is fun but focused, because it is a lot of work. It is not just putting on that tuxedo, or in Camp Rawls' case, your sparkly jacket that is in Mardi Gras colors. But yeah, they're a great combination. And I think plus the two couples, it also allows, like Paul said, it brings in new people, and it's been a great adventure so far this year.
Well, I think, Mary Beth, fun and focus, because one of the things I wanted to talk about was, what's the key to a good relationship between an organization and chairs? And from your perspective, fun and focus is, I've never heard that phrase before, but I think that absolutely is perfect and describes a lot of organizations. And Paul, from a chair perspective, what do you think are the keys to a strong relationship between, what you and your fellow co-chairs are trying to do when executing that vision with the organization? What are you looking for from a nonprofit with that?
Well, I mean, we have to be on the same page in terms of what theme that we need to do, how we can get the word out, communication with people to try to get, develop an interest in the gala, right? Because I say gala, some people say gala, but I'm from Louisiana, so it's a gala to me. Anyway, there's a lot involved with that, but I think they've done Lauren here and Mary Beth, they've done a great job of keeping things both, like she said, focused, but we feel a sense of obligation, even though we're not getting paid for this. There's still an obligation for me to make this a success. And so I'm one of those that I want to beat the goals in the past. I want to raise as much money as we can. I want to reach as many people and get the word out. And so I think we're all kind of on the same page in terms of what our ultimate goals are to make this a success. But a continued success, because they've had successful galas in the past. And so we just want to continue to do the things that may be better, like we try to be better. And I think we can bring to the table of how things have been done. And I'm not one of these, so let's just keep doing it the same way. I mean, I like to look at other ways to do things, because there's always a better way sometimes to do things. And so we've tried a lot of different things, and I think just having a lot of leeway to do that, not being constrained by we can only do this and this and this. And so I like the fact that they're open about ideas and suggestions, and that there's a good communication between the people at Camp Fall doing the back side of the event, with us doing the front side.
Great. That's a really great answer. And, there was something that you had mentioned, a little earlier about committees, as well as, the fact that you all are, bringing kind of a Louisiana influence to the actual theme. And, I want to talk about the committee in particular. How important is having a good committee in helping you execute your vision for the event?
It's very important, because it's not something that we can just do on our own. And that was kind of one of the things that we were a little hesitant about. What are we going to have to do? Are we going to have to do everything? And they've made it a lot easier in terms of having people do the decorations and the food and all, and just the venue itself. And so, but the people who were already, there were already a lot of people on the committee from the prior year. So it wasn't like we had to go out and just start a new committee. We had a number of people, some people stepped off because they had, served in the past. We have, like I said, some new people that have come in. And so just the synergy of having everybody work together, attend meetings, participate, and the significance of having good people is that we can expand our network of all the people that we know, right? And we can reach a lot of people versus, I know a lot of people, our co-chairs know a lot of people, but when you start extending that out to the people on the committee, you can reach so many more people, and everybody's got different ideas. I mean, one of the girls, Kendall, on our committee, she offered that we're doing a wine pool, and she offered to have a wine event at her home. She has a huge wine storage in her house, and she invited all of her friends. And we bought 80 bottles of wine 2 weeks ago at an event. And we had an opportunity. I was able to get up and talk more about Camp Fall in front of a lot of young people. And so we were able to reach out really just from that one event. So it's very important from the standpoint of different ideas, but also different auction items. Just everybody's chipped in. And so it's been really fun to be in a part of everybody wanting to help. just like we are.
That is a fantastic answer. And I love the innovation with that, one of the people on the committee offered their home. You were able to go and speak to it. And it's, successful events always have long-term planning and they always have a pipeline. And what I love about that is that it's a pipeline. Like for you, Paul, you said in your one of your answers earlier that you help get auction items. And anyone who has ever worked for a nonprofit knows if someone is successful at getting auction items, you grab onto that person and you never let them go because that is probably one of the hardest, if not the hardest thing to do. And, so I really appreciated that answer. And Mary Beth, I want to turn the next question to you because a lot of that has to do with long-term planning. So talk to us about the importance of long-term planning in creating a successful gala. And your gala is, it's $1 million gala. So you have to have that long-term planning. So talk about the importance of that.
I mean, I think, at the heart of a gala, it's about introducing new people to your mission and raising those funds. And anybody who tells you that it's one or the other is just not facing reality, but you need them both. And so for us, it is part of our strategic plan is how we engage with our donors, both before and following any special event, but especially this one. So we're looking long-term, hopefully multiple years out at future chairs, sometimes successfully, sometimes not. We're looking at where the organization is as far as, what we've been doing or what we are doing. Are we taking big steps forward? And do we need to build that into the gala? We celebrated our 30th anniversary 2 years ago, and the gala sort of kicked off the year because our gala is in January. It sort of gets the year started, and so it's part of the overall structure and plan for the full year, and that includes communications both with donors and the general public. That's how we engage with our emerging leaders, which is our young leaders group. It's how we connect with the greater community at large. We always feature a camper as a speaker or a camper family as a speaker. And so we're thinking about that throughout the year when we meet people at other places and everything, like, ooh, that person's got a great story to tell. Let me build them into my file of people, because if you leave any of those items out, then it's going to catch you. And we definitely don't want that. So yeah, we think about it all the time. Our assistant director for development and special events, Lauren Brook, is doing a great job. And because she brings both the planning of an event and the fundraising background, she's looking at both of those things together, which means that she's seeing these people who are attending that night, not just as attendees or for what they can bring to the table that evening, but what they might want to do for the Camp for All in the long term. How would they want to be involved? And so that's just sustaining your organization.
Absolutely. And you've each brought something up, and I want to connect the dots for the audience here. And that is about, the first time, Paul, you were asked to chair, you said, no, not, I don't think I'm ready. And Mary Beth, you said sometimes a chair will say yes and sometimes not. And it's important for people to say, if someone says no, unless they say no, not never, never call me again, no means not right now. So you want to make sure that it's as successful as possible, and the stars have to align and everyone has to be ready. So I'm really glad you both were candid about that, because it's an important thing in just the long-term planning is, and like you said, you have a file, Mary Beth. So, when Paul said, not right now last year, you were able to steer it in another direction and create a really fantastic event. And I want to talk about something, because we've talked about the theme. But I want to understand how you all came up with the theme for this year and how it worked. Because Paul, I can tell you have a lot of influence with it. So I want to, please share, both of you, and we'll start with Paul, about how you came up with this theme and how yourself and the organization and the committee, came to this theme, and why you knew it would be the right theme for this year.
Well, being from Louisiana, I've been to a lot of Mardi Gras cruise, Mardi Gras parties. And so it was kind of a condition for me to chair. I told Mary Beth, you have to have a Mardi Gras a theme. And so she kind of let me run with that. But I think it's more, because I understand it's a struggle, but you kind of have to think like, what would be inviting for people? What would be fun for people to come to? And I think it's the Mardi Gras. We have a lot of people from Louisiana who live in Houston in this area, and so that they've celebrated Mardi Gras where they grew up, and so I think it was just a good thing from the standpoint of people know about Mardi Gras, and it gives them a chance to dress up if they want and cut loose and have a good time. And then we just want to provide the experience of like, you don't have to go to New Orleans to have that Mardi Gras experience. And so I think that was we just felt like that would be a good thing that we could run with, given our experience with attending parties and just the blood that we have from Louisiana. So I think that was just I just felt like, hey, if we're really going to make this a success, you need to let us run with it. And then it's just been fun putting it all together. The things that we have lined up, it's going to be a great. People are going to really regret not being able to come to this party.
Yeah, I think, picking the theme is one of those things that we want our chairs to come back and be part of camp. Like our former chairs, our chairs from last year's gala are on the committee this year and doing great things. And it's because they had a great time. Like, I think we have 3 or 4 past chairs who are on the committee now because they had fun. And picking a theme is fun. I mean, we want them to have ownership of that, and we want them to like feel excited about it. And so everybody brings their own flavor to it. And we're thrilled that this is something that is genuine for Ricky and Stacy and Paul and Heather. It's important. They're just going to be more comfortable talking about it. They're going to be happier planning out the details. And are we going to have a second line? And
yes, we are.
I knew we were. So all of those things, and we're going to do our best to help them deliver on that vision, provided it fits the budget. And fortunately, we're not going to pick chairs who are not going to respect that budget. And because Paul and Heather especially have been so close to camp for so many years, they know that funds that we spend on throwing a party, are not going to supporting a camper, and they want as much of that revenue to go to supporting our campers. And so they've been really thoughtful. All 4 of our chairs have been really thoughtful about making decisions that fit that way, but that are still going to make it a really fun party.
That's fantastic. And, I have a follow-up question for you, Mary Beth. And can you talk a little bit about, how the theme ignites you from a development perspective and kind of how you go and you approach the community, the Houston community in this case, in terms of getting them engaged and getting more either donors or corporate sponsors or whatever that is into the event?
Sure. I mean, it starts with the design, and we have a great designer, Wynn Bomar, who works with us on the invitation, and she hears the ideas from the committee and from the chairs and sort of takes that and tries to turn it into something visually interesting. Depending on the theme, you might reach out to businesses that have ties to Louisiana or who have connections there where they're known for that. We haven't necessarily found that this time around, but I've certainly worked on events before where you've had those sort of connections to specific industries or to specific, like companies because of that. I think it's also, then you just want it to be fun. And Camp for All is known for having a fun gala. It is a big gala, it is a successful gala, but it is also a lot of fun for the people who come. And so we want that to be translated too in any messaging that goes out, whether it's on social media or in news releases or in interviews that you have with individuals in the community. And so I think it's just taking it and grabbing hold. And like I said, you want it to be fun. We've had a homecoming gala before where people wear their letter jackets. We've had a big top gala where people dressed as cotton candy. We had somebody come to the gala dressed as cotton candy. But also we had, all kinds of circus performers at that one. It's just fun. And we want people to be comfortable, and we want it to be for all. And that means we're making choices like having closed captioning. So if you don't hear well, that you can still read along with the program. Or if you use a wheelchair, that we're in a venue where you can get in and out through the front door. We want it to be for all because our mission is so central to who we are and what we do.
That is absolutely, that's amazing. And I love how you respect, you're tying in the mission to the organization by doing things such as making sure everything's accessible to anyone who wants to go to the event. You're showcasing to the donors in not everything an organization does has to hit people over the head with it to be effective. Sometimes it's the small details that really matter. And that's what I really love about things like that. And one of the other things that you all do each year at the event is you honor individuals who have really supported the organization in a, tirelessly over the years. And, you all have been around, for over 30 years now. So talk a little bit about this year's honorees and the process of getting an honoree to say yes, because a lot of people who support may not want that notoriety. So I'd love some advice from each of you on that. And we can start with Mary Beth, and then Paul, if you want to chime in with anything additionally, that'd be great.
Yeah, of course, we respect anybody who says, hey, I don't want to be the center of attention. I don't want to be featured that way. But most of the time, the people that you're going to celebrate and honor, like Karen and Mike Odegaard this year, Mike was on the board for many years. He served multiple terms on Camp for All's board. He's been passionate. He had friends that were connected with camp from its very early days, and he continues to serve on like our finance committee and the advisory board. And of course, the Hamill Foundation has supported Camp for All for many years and has given more than $12 million to support us. And the Hamill Foundation has just provided transformational support to so many nonprofits. What I would say is when you're seeking out those people who are potential honorees, I'd say, look for those people in your inner circle because they're the ones probably who've had the greatest impact. I'd say build that list, just like with chairs, you want to think about those things all the time. And so, I'll wake up in the middle of the night and think, oh, why haven't we ever honored so-and-so? And then I'll add them to my notes and we'll follow up. And, I haven't been at the organization the whole time. So there may be a story that I need, some history or whatever, but I think it's just important to see those people who are impacting your organization. So it truly is honoring and celebrating them. So we couldn't be more thrilled to celebrate the Hamill Foundation and the Odegaards this year.
Yeah, and I would say, this is my first year on the boards. I've really had a chance to meet a lot of people, and I see the people who are really contributing to this organization. They're also volunteering their time, and so I've been very impressed by the other board members who I've met, and the board meetings are very well attended, and everybody has input, and they want to make sure that we're managing the money properly, and they're on goal in terms of running the organization and approving everything that needs to be approved. It's a very formal board meeting, which sometimes you don't see that happen. Yeah. And so that's a function of good leadership, but it's I do like to see the people who are not just, again, writing a check, but they're also making a contribution. And so I don't know, I can see a lot of people on that list that probably could be honored in future. So there wouldn't be a shortage of people lined up who could be honored at future galas.
And I'll just add, for us, it comes back to the mission. Who is there for your mission? Who is supporting that mission? And yes, you can always honor that big name or that famous, in the social pages person, and that's great. But for us, it comes back to the mission all the time. Every question at the end of it comes back to what is it doing to support the mission, advance the mission, and the people that we honor typically are those who are champions for us.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you brought up that the name's not as important as the work. And I've seen people go out of their way to get a name and the event flop. And it's really important for people to understand. People can sense that and see that a mile away. It has to be, I don't want to say obvious, but it has to be very clear as to why this person's being honored and that people can see it within 10 seconds of reading something or hearing something, that. And, we're getting to the point, this event is a lot of fun, and I've had a lot of fun chronicling it over the years. So we'll start with Paul, and then we'll move over to Mary Beth. But tell us a little bit about what guests can expect to experience at this year's Krewe de Kamp for All.
Well, first of all, we want everybody to come with the glitter jackets and the dresses and fun outfits. Set up for them when they come in is an a nice area where they can have a cocktail and also kind of walk around and see what items, silent auctions that they can bid on. We also have a raffle. So there's a $10,000 MX gift card raffle for $50. And so that's pretty significant. We usually sell out of those. And then if you buy a raffle card, you get a necklace that's going to be lit up. So everybody's going to know that you are contributing to that cause. We're going to, when the doors open and everybody is there, and we'll be taking pictures, like we'll have those cameras that flash, and we'll be able to take pictures all around. With you having to go to a booth, we can come to your table and take pictures. We'll have a second line dance entrance with a jazz band trio that's going to come in. And so everybody's going to line up on a second. If you haven't been to New Orleans to a second line dance, then you should come yourself. But that'll bring everybody into the main hall. There'll be a stage that'll be a decorated like a Mardi Gras float. And so it'll be, all the tables are going to look like you're in New Orleans with Bourbon Street lamps. And we also have jesters who are going table to table up. You do have to pay $1,000. And you will get champagne for everybody at your table. That'll be served by these jesters. And so that's going to be a lot of fun. We have wine and bourbon pools, because Bourbon Street, New Orleans. But have wine pools where you'll be able to buy, not a chance, but you will walk away with a bottle that's at least equal to the value of the pool. And then we'll have a live statue that in New Orleans, if you've ever seen on Bourbon Street, live statues. And so we'll be taking pictures with the statue. And then the food, I think the food is going to be awesome. It's Louisiana food, grits and griots. Never heard of that. It's like kind of like a shrimp and grits, but it's shrimp and grits and beef. There'll be fried green tomato salads, king cake, little mini king cakes for dessert. And so it's going to be it'll be a fun time. And they'll have the speakers that'll get up and talk. And tell people about Camp Rawl. And the thing I'm most impressed with at the end, after they've gone through all the live auction events, and I mean, we have like Derby, Kentucky Derby, place to stay. That's going to be an auction item. I mean, we
all kinds of great trips, hunts, and just fabulous collections of things. Some finer wines, some. I mean, the list goes on and on as far as the auction and stuff, but we'll finish strong with our Send a Camper appeal.
See, that's right. I'm most impressed with people that come there, that they want to send a camper to camp, right? And so there's different levels. I think it starts off at $25,000 and then it goes down from there in $5,000 increments. But I mean, you're amazed at like how many $25,000 people are willing to pay or donate and contribute to a good cause. And so I know when I've bought tables in the past, everybody at my table has sponsored a camper. So it's just great to see people are in a giving mood and they're having fun, but yet it's more than that. They see the value and what Camp Raw is doing for kids that don't really have an opportunity to see and do what we do. I mean, they're challenged, and when you see somebody, a child who's on a horse who'll never ridden a horse, probably would never ride a horse in their life, and there's a special saddle and they're riding a horse through the property. So it's those kind of things that just that really motivates me to continue to support the organization.
Yeah,
wow.
It's going to be a lot of fun. We also have Camp Mart, which is a really cool thing where you can give a donation to support a specific activity. So X amount for bows and arrows, or X amount for an assisted saddle or a sports wheelchair. And that's a fun thing. And again, it's just a celebration of all things camp. I mean, it's a fun night, as I said before. Not everybody's going to get super dressed up, and we're okay with that. And I think Bailey Ferguson, who's our speaker that night, she's going to just be the highlight of the evening. And if you can come away with dry eyes after hearing one of our campers talk about how, their life was changed by coming to camp, then I challenge you to do that, and come and not feel moved and inspired to get involved in some way or another.
That sounds like an incredibly fun and amazing night. And the one thing that I, really appreciate, with what you were talking about is that there's something anyone who attends can contribute. You've got stuff where people can raise a paddle for $25,000 to send a kid to camp or an adult to camp. And you've also got someone that can pay if they don't have a lot of money and maybe they got a ticket, because they're, an entry-level employee at one of the corporate sponsors, they can buy a $50 raffle ticket and get a $10,000 Amex. There is something for everybody. And that's the hallmark to me of a great gala is that everyone feels that they can contribute in some way, regardless of how much money they have to give, to spend. And I think that sounds like a really fun, amazing evening. And I know we're coming up on time here. So I want to end with one question. And I'd love for Mary Beth to start and we'll end with Paul. And that is, what is one thing a person or an organization can do to create a devoted following for its annual gala or signature fundraiser?
I mean, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but stick to the mission, like champion your mission, find the way to tell that story over and over again, have other people tell that story, have the people who are impacted by what is happening that night be told and shared. Because yes, it's fun to get dressed up. It's fun to have a nice night out and everything. But the thing that's going to keep you coming back is hearing that, I don't have enough money to go out and start a camp for children and adults with disabilities or special needs or chronic illnesses. But I do have enough money that I can come and buy a ticket for the wine pool. I can come out and give some money at Camp Mart to buy toilet paper. And I can be part of that success. I can be part of a camper having an amazing time. And so I think that, and then following up, we already have a plan for how we're going to follow up with all those new donors and the continuing donors from that night. And don't just let them walk out the door and not capture an email or a phone number to say thank you. And to say, hey, would you like to come for a tour? Would you like to come volunteer? Would you like to give again? All of those things, are important. And but it comes back to that mission and the impact that somebody can have by being there.
Yeah, and I would say it's just exposing them to the other people, and they can see the energy. You can start small. An organization could. I work with small nonprofits, and I've seen them grow too. But it is getting the word out and letting them experience and see what it is that you're supporting. And I think that to get people out to the camp, that's probably the biggest, that's probably the most successful thing that you can do to get people to really behind. Because when you go out to the camp and you see the facilities, and we haven't, I don't know if you've even talked about, Camp Roll is building a whole nother camp in addition to the one that's out there. And so we're competing a little, I can tell you, with some of the fundraising on the capital campaign. They're trying to raise $60 million to build a whole nother camp. And so I don't know if there's necessarily that competition, but I would say, hey, this gives an opportunity to put people in front of not just that we want the ongoing operations to be supported financially, but the long term. The benefit of building a whole nother camp where we can serve that many more campers long term, in addition to the ones we're serving, which this year was almost 6,000.
More than 6,000 campers this year.
To serve 6,000 campers, and 186,000 since it started. The numbers.
Almost 191,000 since Camp
Wow.
So it's been an amazing 30 plus years, and we're excited about the future.
Yeah, so I don't think we've gotten here, just overnight. And it's been a lot of people that have contributed.
Yeah.
A lot of people that have shared the same vision, and they've bought in and they've spread the word. It's spreading the word and getting other people excited about what you're excited about.
That is great. And I can see why this event has been a success for such a long time with, with leaders and with staff that are just so dedicated and passionate, like the two of you are, Paul and Mary Beth. So again, I can't thank you both enough for taking the time today. This was a wonderful conversation. Thank you both for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having us, Rob.
Absolutely. And the Krewe de Kamp for All will be held on January 25th, 2025 at the Revere in Houston, Texas. For more information, please visit campforall.org. And that will do it for this episode of Fun and Fundraising. I'm your host, Rob Giardinelli, reminding you to keep it fun, keep it interesting, and your guests will have a great time. Have a great day, everyone, and take care.